And it's 9 p.m. in Nairobi, Kenya, 8 p.m. in Abuja, Nigeria, and here in Accra, Ghana, it's 7 p.m. Hello, good evening to you. Welcome to News 360. And it's live. More news up here to Desawe in Kanda. My name is Alfred Kansi.
And I'm Natalie Ford. To look at the top stories this evening.
News 360 Headlines is brought to you by...
Accra Circuit Court convicts 2 of the 3 escapees from Kwabenya police station, which resulted in the killing of a police officer.
Local Government and Rural Development Ministry directs birth and death registry to halt the non-registration of local names.
Meanwhile, a sociologist chastises births and deaths registry for attempting to implement a policy that could have negative socio-cultural implications.
And in business tonight, Ghana's first floating production, storage and offloading, that's FPSO vessel, FPSO Kwame Nkrumah, to be shut down Thursday, February 1 for maintenance.
And on the international front, Kenya's opposition leader Raila Odinga swears himself in as president. For the details of these stories for you here on News 360, and as always, we're streaming live all across the world on 3news.com as well as TV3 Ghana on Facebook. So
let's go to our first story. This evening, Ghana's goldsmith industry is nearing collapse due to the ban on small-scale mining in the country. Players in the industry have to resort to silver for their production since they no longer get gold. Some producers have started laying some workers off.
Goldsmith and jewelry producers are the latest group in the supply chain to express their sentiment about the ban on small-scale mining in the country. Here at Teshi in Accra, a 60-year-old Joseph Dokubotier, who has been in the jewelry business for the past 25 years. Silver is the main source of raw materials for jewelry production here. Getting gold for his production has always been difficult to come by.
What you see here is not real gold, but coated gold. And for them to be able to even get the little they use for the coating, they have to resort to the broken gold from what people bring here for sale.
He had to lay 5 out of his 8 workers off since there wasn't enough revenue from silver production.
The work is not coming as I can use about 2 or 3 people to join me to do the work.
Okay. So do you do everything alone now, or you have someone who assists you?
Now I get only one boy. Today he did not come.
The industry employs about 2,000 Ghanaians, with 680 as registered members of the Federation of Ghana Goldsmith and Jewelers. I was compelled to check the situation at different centers, but the situation was no different. For the past 9 months, not even a single gold jewelry has been produced here. Customers who do not consider silver as an option eventually resort to imported ones.
People bring gold from Dubai, already made jewelry, and sometimes they remelt it, and that makes the jewelry production in Ghana become so expensive compared to the other world. Because we are bought it from Dubai, and you have to come and remelt it and produce. And even that type of gold, when we do our work with, it doesn't look like a rare gold we get from Ghana here. Okay. The problem now based with the people who buy the gold themselves. Foreigners have taken over. Foreigners are now buying the gold with impurity.
The situation has rendered others idle since there are no raw materials available for production. 80% of the gold used is from small-scale miners.
Gold have value more than the silver. So when you work with gold, something better come out of it. Silver doesn't pay much. You see me not working today, which means I'm losing. The work is collapsing gradually.
It's been 10 months since government placed a ban on small-scale mining, and operators are expecting that the ban be lifted by the end of January, as had been promised by government.
Let's turn to issues of security now, as the Military High Command says it will continue to ensure that persons who impersonate officers in the army are flashed out of their hideout and dealt with according to the law. A video which has been emerged and widely circulated on social media over the arrest of a self-styled captain of the Ghana Army has been condemned by many over the manner the civilian was brutalized. Here's a news desk report.
His crime was to fake his identity and occupation. His cry to be given fair trial angered the soldiers who brutalized him in the full glare of the police at the charge office.
My friend, you kill me, I can't rest again. I can't rest again. You kill me, I can't rest again. Kill me, I can't rest again. Take me to court and let me face my law.
This is a self-styled military captain, Prince Ferguson, SL 27, who was arrested by some army personnel and handed over to the police at Nsawam in the eastern region. Two of the soldiers had gone to Ntuaso, a suburb of Nsawam, on official routine when the town folks reported the activities of the soldier as suspicious. When the suspect's room was searched, 3 military uniforms, a kit, bag, a water pack, a beret with a military crown, desert boots and military belts were retrieved. The suspect has been detained and the military uniforms retained for further investigations. When contacted, the Armed Forces headquarters will not go on record on the matter, but insists it will do all it can to weed out miscreants who parade themselves as soldiers.
You won't dress again. I'm not dressing. I'm telling you.
Well, so the video you just saw has attracted varied reactions from different quarters, but the Dean of Academic Affairs at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Professor Vladimir Nchidanso, has called for a more stringent recruitment and enlistment process within the security services. This, he believes, would help manage issues of impersonation within the force. Meanwhile, a security expert, Dr. Kwesi Ening, considered this as a breakdown in intelligence management and wants Parliament to summon authorities for questioning.
A situation where we live in a very unstable, insecure environment. If this individual had been amongst those who seek to threaten this country, he would have gotten a leeway to have indoctrinated, recruited, trained, and acted in a manner that could have been detrimental to our general well-being.
The video, which has been widely circulated on social media over the arrest of a self-styled captain of the Ghana Army, shows military men brutalizing the suspect. Dr. Ening thinks this raises some questions which need to be answered by authorities and wants Parliament to lead the charge. So if Parliament should invite anybody to give answers, who do they call? The CDS?
I'm not too sure, but I think Parliament must know. But somebody must be called. I don't think Parliament has even spoken yet. No. So it just shows probably they don't think this is part of their business. But I think it's part of their business. The Committee on Defense and Interior, in the last 3 weeks' development, or the last month and a half development, need to call a few people for a conversation.
But the Dean of Academic Affairs at Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Professor Vladimir Nchidanso, disagrees.
This is not an institutional laxity which has created this problem. If it were a case where the institution created avenues for such miscreants to use them, then the Minister of Defense will have a case to answer, or the CDS, or that kind of thing. But this is a criminal just walking out somewhere and just used the military as a tool, the military uniform as a tool. I don't think this is a question for Parliament.
In 2015, 501 recruits who were undergoing a 6-month recruitment training at the Army Recruits Training School at Shai Hills were dismissed for misbehavior and a threat to national security. These recruits had been equipped with basic military training before their dismissal. Some security analysts at the time warned of dire consequences if the sacked trainees were not tracked. With the latest development, the military's recruitment and enlistment processes are being questioned.
As far as I know, everything belonging to the military is taken away from them. What I know also is that people who are rather retiring from the military, I mean, being discharged or whatever it is, most of them are allowed to keep their accoutrement, and that might be. But note it, because we have kind of indiscipline, robberies and whatnot, people would want to own such accoutrement.
Professor Antwi-Danso agrees the processes need a relook.
The military, I think these things help them to also realign their rules and regulations. The Director of Intelligence Outfit has a lot of these data. The MP, that is the military police, do their work very well. And I strongly suspect that with all these intelligence gathering and things like that, they will be able to realign their processes, realign their thinking, strictness of rules and order.
Both were, however, certain the soldiers in the video would be severely dealt with for their action.
An across-circuit court has convicted 2 of the 3 escapees who were in custody from the Kwabenya police station. The 2 were convicted on their own plea.
The 2, Prince Osei and Atta Kojo, pleaded guilty to charges of abetment to escape lawful custody and escaping lawful custody. A third accused, Kofi Daku, pleaded not guilty to the charges. The judge, Abuaji Tano, convicted the 2 and deferred judgment to 13th of February 2018. 9 other persons accused of attacking the police station have been charged with abetment to escape from lawful custody. The 9, which includes a woman, pleaded not guilty to the charge. They have been remanded in custody and are expected to reappear on 13th of February. According to the facts as presented by prosecution, on the eve of Thursday, 18th January 2018, the 4th accused person brought a mobile phone to Dixon Ofori in the cells, and he used same to contact his people outside to execute the plan. Roxin Edem Jigbedi's brother brought a hacksaw blade to him by hiding it in a bread to cut the padlock to the cells, but the hacksaw blade could not cut the padlock. On interrogation, the first accused person stated that he stole his gun from the 6th accused person's boys, whom he normally sends out to robbery expedition. The 12 accused persons are Prince Osei, Atta Kojo, Kofi Daku, Nancy Denta, George Yeboah, Edward Latte, Kofi Seshi, George Saba, Elvis Owusu, George Asante, and Theophilus Banda.
Okay, so away from issues relating to the Kwabenya shooting, the parents who hitherto were not allowed to register their children with certain local names such as Ni, Papa, Nene, Na, Mami can now do so. This is because the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development has directed the Birth and Death Registry to reverse that directive. Haji Halima Mahama told Parliament her outfit is working on a bill and will present it to Parliament to address the controversy. Evelyn Tegma has more.
There was a public outcry when the acting registrar of the Births and Deaths Registry indicated his outfit would not register names such as Na, Ni, Togbe, Mame, Nana and Junior. According to him, such names were titles under the Standard Operating Procedure (SOP), which had been developed by the registry to guide its staff and field workers, as well as in the Birth and Death Act 1965, Act 301. Some MPs raised a matter on the floor of Parliament last week, compelling the Speaker to summon the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development to explain, since there was no law backing it.
Mr. Speaker, considering that the SOP serves as an operational guideline for the registration of births and deaths, coupled with the sentiments expressed by the public, the acting registrar of Births and Deaths Registry has been directed to review the SOP and further directed that names such as Nana, Ni, Papa, and so on, as given by the parents, should be accepted for registration. The registry should perhaps be concerned with just official titles, such as Reverend, Dr., Mr., Miss, Mrs., Honorable, and so on.
She says the registrar was acting upon the SOP policy directive.
International practices usually, that is the Births and Deaths Registry, they usually say you don't include registered titles, except that in our case, looking at our socio-cultural situations, you have to look at it within a person's socio-cultural context.
Since time immemorial, these names have been rejected by the registry?
I would want to believe that, yes, they've not been registering Nana, but they've been using the standard operating procedures, and that is what he was relying on, okay? But like we say, sometimes too, you have to reinterpret them, but maybe he didn't feel he had the power to change it.
She hinted her outfit will soon send a bill to Parliament on the matter.
We had already started working on a new Births and Deaths registration. In fact, last year we took it to Cabinet, and Cabinet approved. Then we sent it to Attorney General. Attorney General has put the comments on it. We're going to have further consultations and then respond to the comments of Attorney General and then bring it to Parliament.
Meanwhile, the acting registrar at the center of the controversy, who was in the House, declined granting us an interview.
Now, the members of Parliament, after the minister's statement, commended her for the intervention.
The legislators, who are the representatives of the people, seem to be satisfied with the explanation by the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development over the registration of names. Well, if you were a parent and you were not allowed to register a particular name for your child, from today, you can go to the Birth and Death Registry to do so.
As we all know, our president is called Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Nana is part of his name, but it's also a title. So sometimes people wonder whether we should even call him Nana Addo Dankwa or president, because Nana and president have the same equivalence in terms of title.
Mr. Speaker, if you heard the way the people were describing the gentleman at Births and Deaths, you would have thought that the man was a criminal. But he was doing the right thing under the law. And so I want to urge members of this House, even though the matter looked like it was wrong, we should have done our homework to check the proper SOP to make sure that he was right before trying to condemn him.
We need to separate when it is a name and when it is a title. But in our tradition, in the Gan state, if you name somebody a name, if I have a child today, a boy, and I name him Ni Lante Vanderpool, it is his name. You cannot refuse to register that name.
If somebody born an Alhaji, until you go to Mecca, so how can you be given birth and you go and say, I'm Alhaji Idrisu? Which Alhaji? Which Alhaji? So, Registrar of Births and Deaths, we won't argue with you on this matter. On those titles, the Reverend, were you born a Reverend? When they were picking you helpless as a baby, you came with a Bible in your hand to a Reverend? No. So, those titles, Alhaji, Reverend, Mr. Professor, a CV with Professor, we agree with you. Is that, Minister, let's respect the hierarchy of the laws. An act of parliament is superior to a regulation, and a regulation is superior to guidelines. And we in parliament will even recognize guidelines. We will not. Therefore, we are saying that based on the Parent Act, bring us regulations. Given names, it does not lie within the registrar to determine a name for a parent, whether mother or father. So, Mr. Registrar, that is not your mandate. And I'm not sure ever any parliament will give you that mandate.
Andrew Kofi Ejapa. Ejapa is good father. Ejapa is good father. And yet, Ejapa was given to the person at birth. How can anybody sitting in his office say that Ejapa is good father? It shouldn't be part of your name. It's a title.
It should not be part of your name. These are the matters that we are concerned with. There is an honorable person called Queen Star, whether he's a star of the Queens or whatever. That is the name that she's acquired, or perhaps given to her at birth.
Pretty interesting though. But then, a sociologist and senior lecturer at the Center for Social Policy Studies has chastised the Birth and Death Registry for attempting, in his view, to solve its operational challenges with directives that have negative socio-cultural implications. Dr. Stephen Afrani is of the view the registry needs a social anthropologist to conduct an in-depth research into the various Ghanaian lineages and their naming systems in order to draw up a suitable registration format that satisfies the needs of the people it serves.
The directive by the Births and Deaths Registry to ban certain local names it described as titles generated public outcry when it hit the newsstands last week. This outcry led to the summoning of the Minister for Local Government by Parliament. Wading into the issue, a sociologist, Dr. Stephen Afrani, insisted the registry needed to understand the difference between names and titles per Ghanaian culture.
Names are not just, if you like, passwords. Okay, the names have meanings and they are situated in ancestry and the socio-cultural context. So when you are taking that one out from the people, it becomes meaningless to them. People who had struggled to get a child, for which reason they have put something to remind them of the struggle they had to go through and what perhaps God they think had done for them. And they have added something to say in Shiraba, Ama Boatima or something, and then they come and say, take the Shiraba out. You see, for them, it is an appreciation of what God has done.
He expressed disappointment in what he describes as the consistent compromising of Ghanaian culture and values to fit so-called global standards. He added this attitude to always adopt international standards was detrimental to the cultural identity of Ghanaians.
Why do we have to compromise because we want to have a global standard naming procedure? Why will the other countries or other cultures also not adopt the Inshiraba and the Nohenebas and others, but we want to standardize and make sure that we comply with their own ways of doing things? We must be unique.
On the way forward, Dr. Afrani suggested the Births and Deaths Registry needed a thorough research into the nuances of naming systems with full consultation of all stakeholders.
Different cultural areas have their naming practices. Matrilineal group have their naming practices different from the patrilineal group, but they are all in Ghana. So it is up to the institution to understand the culture and the differences in the culture and develop the operations to be able to serve our needs.
Let's go back to our earlier story of the video which captures the self-styled captain of the Ghana Armed Forces who has been actually brutalized by some of the army officials there at the time, which has received some widespread condemnation. Some retired senior military officers say it was wrong for the soldiers to assault the imposter, even though he was found in military uniform. They've also called on the public to collaborate with security agencies to rid the system of such persons.
Once an imposter or somebody does the wrong thing and is arrested, he's supposed to be handed over to the police. When somebody commits an offense, the person is punished. Now, sometimes the public does not get to know that such people have been investigated and have been punished. So it's assumed that they get scot-free. No. The second thing is that once they are punished, it serves as a deterrent to the others.
The two retired military generals spoke about how the public can identify imposters.
Every soldier has a name tag. And so if the person doesn't have a name tag, for example, it's one of the things we should begin to suspect. There are a lot of people who have information about military personnel, and therefore they have to collaborate to be able to identify these.
We must be more security conscious.
a civilian must be able to tell whether this man, the way he is conducting himself, is a soldier or not a soldier. And if he has cause to believe that he is not a soldier, a report must be made to the police. And that is what I expect for them to do. Not to wait until somebody comes for Accra, a proper military officer, before a report is made to him for an arrest to be made.
Let's turn to some other stories this evening. Now, private legal practitioner Evans Jikunu says Ghana, by default, has accepted to keep the two Gitmo detainees for life. He explained a part of the agreement between Ghana and the United States about the two-turned refugees, which says they are to be integrated by the host nation, is indicative they are now fully part of the Ghanaian society.
We all know as a fact that the agreement is for 2 years. That is, the Gitmo 2 are supposed to be in Ghana for 2 years. We were told that it was between January 2016 and January 2018. And we are told it has elapsed. So there is this question of where should they go? We are told that they were granted refugee status anyway. However, if there is a clause in the agreement that at the expiration of the term, that is the 2 years, they should be integrated into Ghanaian society. And at the same time, too, we have heard that they have been granted refugee status. For me, what I understand that to mean is that in spite of the fact that they've been granted refugee status, the mere fact that a clause in the said agreement says that they should be integrated into Ghanaian society, it means that they will no longer be under any restriction. You understand? What it means that they will no longer be under any restriction, like the way they did in the last 2 years when they were under that bilateral agreement between the U.S. government and the Ghana government.
Well, still under this particular issue, stay further with this. The Ghana Refugee Board is saying that the two Guantanamo detainees, or ex-detainees, I must say, who have been granted refugee status can engage in private business. Head of the Ghana Refugee Board, Dr. Kofi Anane, noted they having a refugee status means they are permitted to engage in any form of gainful employment.
A Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs, Charles Oredu, exclusively disclosed to TV3 that the two ex-Guantanamo detainees, Mahmoud Umar Mohammed bin Atif and Khalid Mohammed Salih Al-Dubi, are legally engaged in private business. He said this has become possible due to the refugee status conferred on them by the government of Ghana.
Yeah, they have their own private work that they are doing, but constantly the security apparatus is keeping an eye on them. They are 24/7 being monitored, surveilled. Their messages, their phone calls, everything, they are being monitored. Because of how they got to where they are now.
What kind of work are they doing?
Oh, they are into private work. They are into private work.
Private work like what?
For the time being, I would want to, withhold this information.
Head of the Ghana Refugee Board, Dr. Kofi Anane, explained refugees have access to work permits, which enables them to legally engage in any form of gainful work in Ghana, whether they're employed or employing.
You are entitled to work anywhere you want, so long as you find a way. It could also be a private sector, business that they've set up. But regarding your specific question to the Gitmo 2, I know as refugees they are entitled to work permit, but I have no idea of what they are doing, whether they are working or not. I have no idea of the specifics. Once you are a refugee, you are entitled to all the benefits that the local citizens are entitled to. So if they find gainful employment, definitely that's fine. But then they can also be engaged in private businesses as well. As to the scope, it depends on the capability of the person.
We're still live here on News 360 from the News Hub at Adisa Weekend. I've got some business news for you shortly. Stay with us.
It's still News 360. Thanks for staying with us. This is Business. My name is Nana Ikuya Mensah Brampa. And coming up in business tonight, Ghana's first floating production, storage and offloading FPSO vessel, FPSO Kwame Nkrumah, is scheduled to be shut down from Thursday, February 1 for maintenance work. Now, the shutdown will lapse 3 weeks, after which the vessel will undergo another shutdown in March and November this year. This was disclosed by a petroleum engineer at the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation GNPC, Albert London, at a workshop on the 2017 annual report on the petroleum funds. The first shutdown is intended to repair the damaged turret bearing of the Jubilee FPSO. With a total production of oil expected to increase to 170,000 barrels a day in 2018, Engineer London says total average of crude oil production will not be affected.
We factored in the shutdowns we are going to have, the duration of the shutdown and the possible downtime, and to arrive at these figures. So Jubilee is going to give us about 75,000 barrels of oil a day, whilst 10 is going to give us about 60,000 barrels of oil a day. And Sankofa GMA will give us about 35,000 barrels. That gives us the 170,000 barrels from these three fields.
Oil production from the Jubilee field was fairly stable during the year under review, with an average 89,725 barrels of oil per day, as against a target of 66,202 barrels of oil per day. Resource governance expert Samuel Osei-Bequin has questioned the planned shutdown of the FPSO.
They need to come out and let Ghanaians understand what the causes were. Was it that by the time of the design or when we went to purchase the FPSO, we did not do a better due diligence to ensure that these engineering problems were not going to happen after 5 to 8 years into production? I think it's important for us to question not just GNPC, but the operator Tullow as well.
Head of the Energy, Oil and Gas Unit at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Joseph Asenso, however, insists the 10-week shutdown will not have any negative impact on revenue target and production.
The price that we used in the budget was $57.36 per barrel. As we speak now, it stands at $65. So there is somewhat a windfall between our projection and then the actual. So the shutdown has been factored in the projection, and we do not expect any adverse implications if we stay within the 10-week period of shutdown.
The Ministry of Finance and the European Union have launched a new European Partners Cooperation strategy in Accra. The event saw the signing of financing agreements worth €175 million for the implementation of 4 programs over the next 7 years.
The Joint Cooperation Strategy 2017 to 2020 is dubbed European Partners Working Together in Ghana, and it is as a result of strengthened coordination by the EU, Denmark, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Switzerland and the UK. Together they have committed a €1.25 billion to support priorities identified by the government of Ghana in its long-term national development plan. The European Union signed 4 financing agreements with government worth €175 million, supported by the 11th European Development Fund for programs expected to be implemented over the next 7 years. €102 million will be used for productive investment for sustainable agricultural development in the Northern Savannah Ecological Zone, whilst €45 million will support decentralization in the country and €20 million for climate change intervention programs.
We are working at the ministry with the Ministry of Planning on actually putting texture to the whole concept of Ghana Beyond Aid, so that all of us average people can know what it is and determine our part in it. It's a whole shift in recapturing the shining star, the black star, and the dignity of our people. And that leads to a different level of negotiations with friends who want to participate in the new Ghana.
The EU ambassador to Ghana, William Hanna, commended government for its Ghana Beyond Aid agenda, adding it has its full support.
The country is not dependent on aid.
It maybe was in the past, but not at the moment. It's a small part. We are pleased to see this because it shows that the economy has grown, and it shows the country is less dependent on aid. So the aid part I see as shrinking, and I see the trade as being very important to have the access. That access doesn't work unless you're really, the private sector is really moving. So the investment is the other part which is important.
Out of the 175 million euros, only 53 million euros will be directly managed by the government of Ghana within its public financial system, while the remaining 122 million will be managed by 2 development agencies of EU member states.
All right, so earlier we're talking about the price of oil there in terms of production, and with the shutdown also of FPSO Kwame Nkrumah well, fears have been allayed that there will be any implications regarding production as well as revenue targets for government. But when you look at exporting or importing, it comes two-way, whether we will benefit or not. And well, our worst fear has also come up as a price of a barrel of oil has hit the $70 mark there on the international market. I'm just trying to get those figures there for you. But JP Morgan Chase has also predicted some $78 within coming months. If we look at the price now, $70.69, or seeing an increase of 0.38%. When we are exporting, that is where we benefit as a country. But when we are importing, talking about petroleum prices, which is likely to see an increase in the first pricing window of February, and we don't know how we're going to go about it, but let's see if it really takes effect. But this is what the currency, that is the commodity market, is showing $70.69 and a prediction of some $78 in coming months. Will that happen? We'll monitor the commodities and see later in subsequent bulletins. My name is Nana Ekuya Mensah Brampa. There's more on News 360. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. Sports News Time here. My name is Michael Oti Eje. And let's get straight into the stories. And the Club Licensing Board of the Ghana Football Association have begun the inspection of various facilities and match venues today. Now, the board are traveling to all the league centers in both Division 1 and the Ghana Premier League to ensure that the facilities are in the best of shapes. Now, they have to do all that within a short time frame. The league resumes, remember, on the 9th of February, and the authorities are required to see all Division 1 clubs and see Premier League clubs. It potentially could mean they will be visiting up to more than 100 clubs in a bid to make sure they are up to scratch for the upcoming season. Let's get into the biggest talking point in Ghana sports at the moment. And it involves 2 boxers, Isaac Dogbe and Emmanuel Tego. And there are those who say that that potential fight between Tego versus Dogbe would never happen, but that has not stopped the hype machine cranking into overdrive already, as Nana Ekuya Mensah reports.
A few days after beating Fernando Salcido to general condemnation, the camp of Tego, led by Black Stars captain Asamoah Gyan and Bafo Gyan, have been baying Dogbe for a fight. Dogbe, regarded as the finest Ghanaian boxer at the moment, has a sight on a world boxing bout, but his father does not think it will be an obstacle. He said today that Isaac Dogbe is ready to fight Game Boy at super featherweight in July. It must be a winner-take-all. Asamoah Gyan's response to that is that they are ready and is offering to put up an initial $100,000 on the fight if Dogbe's camp will do same for a winner-takes-all bout. Tego's manager Bafo Gyan is in no doubt who will win. Not everyone is sold on the hype though. While there is no doubt this will be a hugely popular fight, boxing expert Mohamed Amin Lamte says there is everything wrong about it.
Why are we calling the 2 boxers to fight? Is it about money, about fame, or about what? Okay, it is good that we should have such rivalry in our boxing, but let's have that when the boxers are on the same wavelength. Emmanuel Tego is a lightweight boxer, and at that category, the level of their weight is 135 pounds. And when you get down to super bantamweight, that level is 122 pounds. So if indeed you want to bring these boxers within the 4 corners of the ring to fight, then one of them would have to add up 13 pounds.
There are the many likes of Amin Lamte opposed to the meeting, but money talks in boxing, and the fact that there is already a conversation with key actors in both camps involved means it is very likely to happen.
Now, elsewhere, the local athletics season is underway as the Ghana Athletics Association begins the long process of picking local stars for the Commonwealth Games in Gold Coast in April. Daniel Yabua was at the first circuit in Secondary Takrady and filed this report.
Crowds, no atmosphere, nothing like the spectacular, but just a lot of athletes determined to get on that plane to the Commonwealth Games for Ghana. With 3 months to the Games in Australia, the Ghana Athletics Association are hoping the local athletes will throw up a gem or two and provide them a path to greatness beginning in Australia. And after a day of competition at the Sipon Stadium, Vice President Sylvanus Lamte outlined plans for the Commonwealth Games.
As for the athletes, they are the same old faces. There is no new athlete that we can boast of. They are the older ones, but they have all improved upon their performances. And that is what we are happy about. And we are to take 8 out of the whole lot to send them to a camp. We are able to do it.
Among the athletes present in Secondary was the veteran Margaret Simpson. She is hoping to get back on the international stage for Ghana after threatening to quit competing for the country. Then there were younger athletes like Safo Ansah, the men's 100-meter winner, who has set his sights fixed squarely on Gold Coast in Australia.
It was all about determination and hard working. It was a very tough competition that I had in my life. If God permits, I will join the Ghana team, the national team, and maybe I will take part in the Gold Coast Games.
There will be 2 more circuits before the Ghana team to the Commonwealth Games is finalized.
Let's get into onto the football then now. And you know, with a day to the end of the transfer window, which wraps up tomorrow, a lot of deals are happening. Man City have confirmed the signing of French defender Aymeric Laporte from Atletico Bilbao for a club record fee of £57 million. Now, the fee for Laporte, who is here to win a cap for France, takes the spending by Premier League clubs this month to £252 million. Now, the 23-year-old's arrival at City also takes manager Pep Guardiola's spending on defenders and a goalkeeper since the end of last season to £215 million. So Laporte is a done deal today, but there are a number of things going on in the transfer market. We thought we will electricity bet for you with this quick slide. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, he's arrived in London. A deal could be confirmed very soon. Something in the region of £60 million is being reported. So that could be a big deal. If Aubameyang moves, it will trigger a series of moves. Chelsea are looking to sign Olivier Giroud, but only after they've ensured that Michy Batshuayi has ended up at Dortmund, depending on what happens. And then Man City could do another deal. They're looking for a winger. Reports today say that the former African Player of the Year, Riyad Mahrez, has handed in a transfer request. Manchester City have placed a bid of £60 million for his services. So quite a few things to happen. Tomorrow evening on Sports Unlimited, we'll be wrapping up the major transfer deals and a transfer special. In the meantime, Natalie will take up the rest of the news with the entertainment stories.
In entertainment news this evening, Talented Kids reigning champion Erica Tandor, popularly known as DJ Switch, wants children with unique talents to give the show a shot, as it could help them realize their dreams. She's been sharing her expectations with Owusu Arai ahead of this year's Takrady auditions.
DJ and prodigy Erica Tandor, aka DJ Switch, was a delight to watch during the 2017 Talented Kids.
You're making us enjoy what you're doing. It's like a lot of things compiled, all coupled up in one.
The Wonder Kid is well known for her mastery in DJing, and there is never a dull moment with her. At the age of 8, Erica rose above competition to win Talented Kids in 2017, making her the youngest contestant ever to win the show. The pupil of talented Royal International School was filled with pride as she looked back at her exploits.
I felt very happy.
Very happy.
And great. It has helped me to be more confident. It has helped me to know how to relate with people. I feel very happy meeting such people.
Fast forward to 2018, hundreds of prospects will be hoping to fill her shoes as the search for her successor is underway. The 9-year-old wants children with unique talents to go for gold.
I expect all the children going for the Talenta case to be more confident, and I want them to be serious about whatever they'll do. I wish them good luck.
The Takoradi auditions of the show will take place on January 30 and 31, 2017. That of the Greater Accra region is scheduled for February 2 and 3, and already some schools have lined up talents for the audition. Edward Affo is the Executive Director of Talented Royals International School.
About 50% of our children here have the talent. Our own DJ Switch is a DJ. So we're also coming to show to you that yes, indeed, this school is not just by the name. We got children here playing piano. They can play piano and you dig a boogie here.
And I want to tell all parents that if they've seen such talents or talents in their walls, they should push them and help them bring out their talents. They'll never regret.
DJ Switch. Let's go for some international news. International front, let's go straight to Kenya. Kenya's main opposition leader, Raila Odinga, has declared himself the people's president at a controversial swearing-in ceremony in the capital, Nairobi. Thousands of his supporters attended the event despite a government warning that it amounted to treason.
Raila Amolo Odinga, in full realization of the high calling, assumed the office of the People's President of the Republic of Kenya. Do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the people and the Republic of Kenya, that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of Kenya as by law established, and all other laws of the Republic as adopted by the people of Kenya. That I will protect, uphold sovereignty, integrity, and dignity of the people of Kenya. So help me God.
Well, so that's the people's president, Raila Odinga there. Let's go straight to Kenya now. And Emmanuel Yegon is joining us via Skype to help us understand what the situation is as we speak in Kenya. Emmanuel, thank you for your time. Good evening to you. Now, how have Kenyans on the streets of Nairobi been reacting and responding to what happened earlier today?
Good evening. In most parts of the country, and mostly the places where the opposition has a lot of base, I mean the strongholds, especially most in Kisumu, for example, the supporters ran to the streets after was sworn in earlier today, and also in the streets of Nairobi. There was that atmosphere of celebration earlier in the day.
But has there been any reaction from government? I mean, I don't know that Uhuru Kenyatta is out of the country now attending to the AU summit, but has any government official spoken about this?
So far, there is no response. There is no communication. No government official has spoken about this, though the president has landed. The president is in the country. He arrived in the country some minutes to 6 p.m. And straight from there, they had an official government meeting with some of the top officials in government, including his deputy president. But so far, there has been no communication regarding what happened earlier.
At the moment. Okay. So how about the TV stations? We do know that some of them were prevented from carrying this event live, but it was streamed on Facebook and some other websites. How have they also bounced back after this restriction from government?
As it happens, some of them are still the way it was during the day, that they are not yet still able to, relay the information they are relaying live through the channels, because in the morning, the signals for the free-to-air set-top boxes were cancelled from the locations where they air their signals. And so that has been that way for most part of the day. And even as we speak at the moment, some of them have still not yet regained their transmission. Okay,
thank you, Emmanuel Yegon. He is a resident journalist or reporter in Kenya, giving us details of what's happening in Nairobi. I've been joined in studio by Joseph Warongo. He's a Kenyan living in Ghana. Now, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us this evening. Now, this event we do know was purely ceremonial, not to confer any formal authority on Raila Odinga. What exactly was he seeking to achieve with this?
I think Raila is a man who's fed up. According to him, he's taken part in and lost, or won rather, the last 3 elections in Kenya. He's had to give in. People urging him, look, you've got to let the country continue. Remember, we had terrible violence in the 2008 election. Absolutely. When Kofi Annan had to come in and help, bring the parties together. I think this time he said, no, I believe I won this election. I believe I am the president of the Republic of Kenya, so I'm going to swear myself in. And that's exactly what we did.
People's president.
We have the people's president.
And a democratically elected president.
Absolutely. And he was very careful in the words that he chose for his oath, because obviously this is high treason, the act that he's performed today. So he saw himself to the office of the people's president, whatever that means, we're not too sure. But the point he's making is that he's the one who's popularly elected. So this is, obviously he does not have the instruments of state or of power. He doesn't have a cabinet. He's not commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Is not therefore in defense of the territorial sovereignty of Kenya. So he's sending a message to President Uhuru Kenyatta. Look, I'm going to push you to the wall because I think I won this thing. So I need you to come and meet me halfway. We need to talk about this.
But is this going to succeed? I mean, in power sharing or anything of the sort? I mean, with this kind of strategy?
It will be difficult. First of all, the Constitution does not allow that. There is no room, for example, for the office of the Prime Minister, which we had in the, under the previous laws. So it's difficult. On the other hand, Uhuru Kenyatta said, look, I won this squarely. You withdrew from, from the rerun of the presidential election. I am the popularly and democratically elected president. So we don't foresee that Uhuru Kenyatta would give in, which then creates room for a very difficult few months and maybe quite a long period to come, a really difficult time for Kenya.
I mean, would Kenyans ever be spared of electoral disputes? I mean, from 2008, right, 10 years on, 1,000 people died in 2007, there are about 50 people 10 years on. What does the future really look like?
It's not great, and there's been a lot of concerns. During the protracted period in the last year, due to that election, there was businesses were really affected. The economy was seriously affected. Factories and companies closed down. There was a lot of unemployment that took place. So people are really fed up, and they thought that with the swearing in of Uhuru Kenyatta, this would be the end of it. But obviously not. This throws the country back into a long period of uncertainty, which could affect the security and the economy of the country.
Well, Mr. Joseph Warongo, thank you for joining us this evening. He is a Kenyan living in Ghana, but the general manager in charge of news here at the Media General joining us. But the Skype interview was brought to you by MTN. Thank you very much for staying with us here. Well, from Kenya, we come back to Ghana. Very grateful to stay with us. My name is Alfred Akansi.
And I'm Natalie Ford. We've got more news on our website. That's 3news.com. And news at 10 will simulcast on our sister station, 3FM 92.7. Thanks so much for watching. Have an incredible evening.